Call our meeting to order tonight. Renata, if you would do the roll call, please.
McEvers.
Here.
Gookin.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
English.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Ettinger.
Here. Let's please rise for the invocation. We have Pastor Sean McCartan with Life Center, Coeur d'Alene. Right here.
Good evening. Let's pray together. Father, we take a few moments at the beginning of this meeting to honor you. And I'm reminded of a young leader, Solomon, as he was about to embark on governing a nation. And he prayed, and after his prayer, you answered it by giving him a wise and discerning heart. And he said, God, your servant is here among the people you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to count or number. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. And God, that was a great prayer several thousands of years ago, and I believe it's a great prayer for today, for here in Coeur d'Alene. I just want to thank you for these leaders and just invite your wisdom and your discernment to make great decisions on each agenda item. So we thank you, commit this time to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Would lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't believe we have any amendments to the agenda tonight, so we will move on to presentations. We have Randy Adams that's going to give us a legislative update.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I've been asked to fill you in on a little bit about what the folks in Boise have been up to lately. Fortunately, there have only been about 470 bills introduced, so this shouldn't take too long. But actually, I have been asked to reduce it a little bit because of some important sporting event tonight. So, the 2018 session of the Idaho legislature, one of the bills that may be important to the city of Coeur d'Alene is 452, which tweaks the vacation rental ordinance that was passed just last year. And it clarifies that local jurisdictions cannot ban them entirely. So apparently the words used last year throughout the jurisdiction were confusing to some people. So they wanted to make sure everybody knew, and they have deleted those words. It still preserves the right of cities like the city of Coeur d'Alene to implement reasonable regulations deemed necessary to safeguard the public health, safety, and general welfare. This does not affect the city's ordinance. Our ordinance is still valid, would be valid under this new ordinance should it pass the Senate and be signed by the governor. The bill did pass the House on February 13th and is currently in front of the Senate. House Bill 547 is the bill regarding the adoption of building codes, which has achieved a lot of interest in a variety of departments, the building department, the fire department, etc., in a lot of jurisdictions. The existing law does limit the authority of a city to adopt or to make amendments to the Idaho building codes. So this bill was spurred by the decision of certain cities, I won't mention Boise, which wanted to adopt the newest Idaho residential code, which had not been adopted by the Idaho Building Code Board. So this legislation specifically prohibits local governments from adopting part or all of newer building codes, including the IBC, the IRC, and the International Energy Conservation Code, if they have not been adopted by the Idaho Building Code Board. Now, under current law, the local government can amend codes adopted by the state if there's good cause and if the amendment is reasonably necessary. The new bill changes that and allows amendments only if it's based on a finding by the governing authority that there's an immediate threat to human life or safety and that the amendment provides at least an equivalent level of protection. This doesn't really affect our current building codes. We generally follow the state of Idaho's adopted codes. We have done some amendments in the past, but in my view, those amendments could be passed even under the new stricter standard. This bill has passed the House on March 2nd and is currently in front of the Senate Commerce and Human Resources Committee, and it's not really clear whether it will ever get out of committee.
What, did it get a hearing?
Has not yet had a hearing, has not been scheduled for a hearing as far as I can tell.
Randy, I have a question in regards, when that comes to us now, is there times when we can adopt parts and pieces, or is it all or nothing?
No, you can adopt, for example, the Idaho or the International Building Code. What the state adopts, say in this case, the 2015 International Building Code, the state does certain amendments to this uniform code, and then the city usually adopts it, but usually adds some amendments of our own, and that is permissible.
So it's not an all or nothing?
It's not an all or
Okay,
nothing, no.
thanks.
It just is, you have to reach that threshold. You have to make that finding. Senate Bill 1298 is near and dear to our city clerk's heart, and it's called the Wrap Back Bill. Under the current law, certain positions require fingerprint-based background check. But once the pre-hiring or pre-licensing background check is completed, the fingerprints are destroyed. And if we want to check on any future criminal activity, we have to go through the process again, have the employees fingerprinted. It just doesn't happen. This bill would allow cities to opt into receiving ongoing updates of criminal activity, maintaining those people's fingerprints on file, for example, for child care workers. This increases public safety, avoids costs of rechecking, redoing the fingerprints. The new proposed bill also gives protections to those who are being fingerprinted, and I've listed those there: confidentiality notice, etc. The bill has passed the Senate and is currently in a House committee, the Judiciary Committee. The city and many cities are hoping that this will pass. It did not pass last year. A new bill is Senate Bill 1337, which involves campaign finance reform, and it was introduced just yesterday. There are several provisions regarding the filing process, including public access to finance information, and it expands the sunshine laws to all elections, not just certain elections. That is in committee, and we don't know where that's going to go from there. Some other bills of note. Senate Bill 1332 seeks to remove the state from the liquor by the drink licensing process and to allow cities and counties to decide how many liquor by the drink licenses they want to give, and they think that will also eliminate the trafficking of state licenses. It has been referred to the State Affairs Committee. The most important bill is House Bill 575, which seeks to designate the huckleberry pie as a state dessert. It is currently baking in the State Affairs Committee.
You're lucky I like you, because that was bad.
The target date for the end of the session is March 27th, and actually yesterday was supposed to be the last day that bills could go back and forth between the houses. We'll see if they can manage to meet those dates. And I stand for questions if there are any.
Questions for Randy? I just had one question. There is a bill in regards to putting publications in the newspaper.
And that failed. It died in committee.
Generally speaking, if it's a good bill, it's
Die in the
and if it's a bill regarding local control, it's dead.
So that bill would have allowed us just to post online on our website any of these notices rather than putting it in the newspaper.
Correct. And the committee hearing was quite interesting. Some newspaper representatives were there, and they asserted that this had nothing to do with money.
Any questions for Randy? Great, thank you very much.
The newspaper's one.
Next up is Hillary for an East Sherman update.
Gonna happen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Let me load my quick presentation for you. All right. So I'm here this evening to give you an update on East Sherman and the master planning efforts. If you recall, we started in 2015 with some town hall meetings and engaging the community on what do we want to see for the revitalized East Sherman. The East Sherman Master Plan is a spotlight action item in the CDA 2030 Vision Plan, and it specifically notes to develop and implement a master plan for redevelopment of the East Sherman Avenue neighborhood, incorporating an inviting gateway-style entrance to the city. So these are the boundaries of the area we're calling East Sherman. We've currently looked at having the boundary start at 8th Street as kind of a transition between 8th and 11th Street. And then the formal area would really be from 11th Street to Coeur d'Alene Lake Drive, and then going into the residential areas to the north and south, just about a block and a half or 2 blocks. And this was based on a lot of the community input we received in 2015. So I won't go into all the details of what we've done between 2015 and now, but there's been a lot of community engagement and some great feedback. And what we're doing now is we're in the final phase of the project in the master plan. If you recall, last fall I came to you and asked if we could submit for a grant application for technical assistance from community builders, and we did receive that, and it's valued at close to $90,000 with the city's match, and that is helping us come up with the final design work, helping focus on economic development, project feasibility, implementation strategies, and helping us kind of package everything together so we can create the final master plan so we can start implementing it. And they're also going to be helping us with some additional community engagement. So the 2 key goals of our efforts working with CDA 2030 and community builders and their partners are to create a shared community vision for East Sherman, to guide long-term decision-making, and to create an action-oriented plan for the physical and economic development of East Sherman Avenue. So our consultant team is going to be here next week, and part of that is to meet with some stakeholder focus groups and find out what are their goals for revitalization and do they have any ideas for implementation, as well as any of their concerns about the current corridor and the future of East Sherman. There's also going to be an Envision East Sherman strategy workshop, and this is a really exciting opportunity for our community members to come in and revalidate what we've heard already. So we're not throwing out what we've heard. This is building upon it. So we've heard a lot of great things, but it's really finding out from our community members, have we stated what the vision is? Currently, we have drafted 15 vision statements, and it kind of reflects things about the streetscape, the community, the neighborhood, safety, and aesthetics. So we're going to be getting input from our community members on that. They're going to have a fun exercise where they can create their own streetscape. So embracing your inner child and your inner artist, getting to use the children's scissors and the glue sticks and figuring out what do you want the street to look like. So that'll be fun. And then some other exciting projects, as well as helping us figure out what are some key strategies that we could do to implement these ideas to achieve revitalization. So that's happening next week, and the consultant team is also going to be meeting with our leadership committee. So we've formed a 28-person leadership committee that's really helping us with this last stage of the project to say, are we going the right direction, and help be champions for East Sherman moving forward. So we have created a Facebook event, and as of 5:45 this evening, we had indicated there's 254 people that are either interested or planning to attend. We're hoping that others keep spreading the word. We've done a boost on Facebook, and we'll be sending out reminders tomorrow. I also sent an email to over 250 people that have indicated they're interested in East Sherman updates, and so letting them know about the event. We've done press releases and Twitter and everything else to kind of get the word out, but we're really excited about moving forward to finish the master plan. The consultants will also be back in April for a multi-day design studio. So that's all I have, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
So Hillary, that meeting is here in this room?
That will be here, yes, thank you for pointing that out. We've produced some flyers, I handed them some out this evening, but we have these, it does have the details. The meeting will be here in the library community room. It'll be from 5:30 to 8 p.m., and we'll have food and drink provided, and lots of fun.
Any questions for Hillary? Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Hillary, what's the end game here?
Well, the end game is really to encourage more reinvestment of the corridor, to help beautify it, to encourage those that already own properties to feel like they're comfortable in putting more money into new businesses, new facades, potentially new projects to attract additional investment in the corridor, improve safety. We've heard that that's a big goal of community members, to feel like they can be safe there walking at night, improve the safety for pedestrians and bikes. A lot of the students cross Sherman to get to the schools in the area. So that's a lot of it. It's really, yeah, and it's also an important gateway to the city. And currently, it's not as vibrant as it once was. You see the photos from the flyers here, and it was very vibrant in the past, and unfortunately,
That was the highway.
it is not quite as, correct. Yes, it was a different structure at the time, but.
Well, I just want to know, so it seems like this is going on, we've done a bunch of these. We do the parking it on Sherman events. I don't know, 3 of those, I think, so
We
far.
have, yep.
And these other things, I just want to know, when does it end? It's not going to be like something that's going to keep on going. You know, we're just going to have cake someday and say, yay, we did it, right?
The master plan is scheduled to be completed in 2018, yes. So we're going to wrap up our
Okay.
effort with the consultant team in May to June, and then we're going to package it up, create a master plan, and come back to you and get the master plan adopted. The parking on Sherman events, we'd like to see those continue, but we'd like to phase out the city's involvement and have some others take on that. But
Beautiful, thank you.
we've obviously had a lot of excitement about those. We had over 1,200 people at the last event, so people are excited about East Sherman.
Good.
Other questions,
So
Kiki?
Hillary, of this 20-person team, how many of those folks are property owners or residents of that area, of that 20-person leadership team
So it's
that's moving this forward?
28 people. I would say majority are business owners, property owners, and neighborhood, so residents in the area. And then some are some other community partners. And we've also invited the 2 schools to participate, Sorensen and Fernan. We've invited St. Vincent's and others that do have some properties in the corridor, but also interest in seeing East Sherman revitalized.
Okay.
Other questions? It's interesting, Hillary, when you look at that picture, so you have 4 lanes there plus parking on each side, right? Yeah. And now, and I would imagine the street width is the same.
Correct.
So now we have 2 lanes, which must be very wide lanes. You have 2 lanes, 1 each east-west, right? And the parking. So there could be some opportunities there to create some different things with
There's
the
a
width
lot
of
of
that.
opportunity. The right-of-way is 80 feet wide, and so it'll be fun to see what people come up with their design, their own streetscape, because you could fit a variety of things in there, including the off-street or the on-street parking, wider sidewalk seating. There's a lot of things you could do. This one, it didn't used to have that center turn lane. We have that now, but the downtown section of Sherman doesn't have that turn lane other than at the key intersections.
So you say the right-of-way is 80 feet. What is the standard? So downtown Sherman, what's the right-of-way?
Downtown Sherman, I believe it's also 80 feet. There are wider sidewalks, though, in
Okay.
the downtown section.
All right. Any other questions?
I'd just like to mention that, you know, that's an old picture.
Yeah, we had hardware stores.
Yeah, because you've got Campbell's Hardware, and then down the street farther, you've got others, and it's an old picture,
It is.
old picture.
The museum was generous in loaning us some photos to use for the project.
We did upgrade Sherman to color now.
That's right.
All right, thank you, Hillary.
you.
Appreciate it. We'll move on now to the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent calendar as presented, including Resolution 18014.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yeah.
English,
Yes.
Eddinger,
Yes,
Evans,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Motion carried. Now is the time for public comment. Anyone wishing to come up and address the council on city business should have 3 minutes to do so. Anyone wishing to come up and give public comment? Come on up. Hello.
My name is Nathan Baker. I work with the North Idaho Skate Park Association. And a couple council sessions ago, we came in and we were talking about our fundraiser that was upcoming. And we have had that fundraiser, and we wanted to give the council a report on how it went and how it'll affect the future skate park. So, first off, thank you for everybody that participated in it. I see a few people in front of me that were there, so thank you for coming out. And a big thank you to anybody who donated items for our silent auction, live auctions. We had a lot of fun. We got to have a skateboard demonstration inside of there, and I know that was a blast for some of the people that got to see that. We did get our final numbers in. The fundraiser did raise $18,844, and so that'll be being held by the Panhandle Parks Foundation until the skate park construction begins, and we'll be able to add that into the funding that's already provided by Ignite CDA and the City of Coeur d'Alene Parks Department. Another thing that was just really great was that we got to see some of the members of our community that had a history with skateboarding, and it gave a time for some of these people to get together and mix and talk about the history that skateboarding has with our town and past skate shop owners. We had, you know, Tom Brown, who owned the Shred Shed in there, and Jerry, who owned Comet Skate Shop, and people got to swap stories and talk about how skateboarding had affected, you know, this area. Some of these kids that went and shopped in those stores, now they're adults that are in their 30s and 40s, and they got to, you know, kind of talk about how they had an effect on their, you know, teenage years and their adulthood, and it was just a really, really cool night, you know, to get together. So, and we're going to continue to raise funds to add into the skate park so that we can make this thing as big and wonderful as we think Coeur d'Alene deserves. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions?
So what's the schedule for the skate park? I mean, it's coming in this year, right?
It is to be built this summer.
Okay.
Right now it is in architecture, so they're finalizing the plan so that it can go out to bid. And as that develops, I would be very excited to come back as often as you want me to talk about it. I love talking about the skate park. So.
The name of your speaker you had there at the night, he was a great speaker. If you saw him just mingling amongst the crowd, you would have not expected the message that he gave, but he was just fabulous. And his name again?
So Mike Vallely was the speaker,
Yes.
and he really keys into that. Most skateboarders don't look like you would think that they are, and especially the ones who are, you know, as middle-aged skateboard characters. That, you know, we still wear the same tattoos we had as teenagers, and to be able to talk to like-minded people who really want to take part in a mentorship of skateboarding and help guide the new generation of skateboarders to have a little bit different attitude towards community than maybe we did when we were kids.
So you said middle-aged skateboarders. Where would Woody fit in to those skateboarders? Where would you think?
Woody's in our Golden Pond division. but we do love Woody. He's
Yeah.
Golden Pond, I like that.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. It was a great event, and we
Thank
look
you.
forward to the new skateboard park. So come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name's Craig Bunch, a member of this community for about 42 years. I once ran for one of your seats a long time ago that Mr. Ettinger might remember in 1977. I think Mr. Fromm had 1,800 votes, and Dixie had 1,500 and lost as the incumbent. I only had 1,200. So that was my last foray in talking to the council. My concern is this. I received a parking ticket up in the library parking lot on the 13th of February after a warning last summer. And I appealed, and I went down and I'll just give the initial, a lady by the name of E down at our Chamber of Commerce. And I did some research because the day I got the ticket, a young man behind me looked pretty young, like a high school student, and he also had a ticket at the very same time, and he looked very sad. And so this became kind of a crusade to find out just what was going on. Why were I getting these tickets? And here I have the ordinance that's on the sign up there, 3442. And I read that, and it didn't seem to match the way I felt the enforcement was being done. And E came out with, of course, your code and your chapter 10.24 and highlighted some things. And I still felt the enforcement did not match the code. In essence, what she is saying is this. I got the ticket because I went up there for a half hour, left, came back 2.5 hours later for 15 minutes to drop off a book, and that violated the system this way. That she says, once the 2-hour limit has expired on a 2-hour parking space, no owner or operator of vehicle which occupied that 2-hour space shall park within 300 feet of that same parking space. My contention is that I was never there for 2 hours. And also, one other thing she said, if I am there for 15 minutes, I forfeit the rest of the hour and 45 minutes. Not only that day, but for 24 hours, which may go into the next day. I say, well, that's fine if that's the council's intent. Please change the sign. And that's what I did with Juanita today. I went in and said, look, Mom, you know, I'm willing to pay the $15. I got $500,000 worth of real estate in this place, and it's not really going to hurt me at all, but I think it hurts these high school kids. And that if your sign says 2-hour limit, ordinance 3442, and it doesn't speak to anything else, please put up new signs or change your codes to match your enforcement. Thank you.
I talked to some folks today about your very same issue, and they discussed it today in the parking commission. And you bring up a very valid point, and there's going to be some changes that are made, and somebody from the parking commission will be back in touch with you.
I appreciate that.
Just to let you know that.
One final comment. The huckleberries, I think the bear should have first dibsies on all huckleberries. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Dan?
Well, I would just add to that because I'm the council liaison to the parking commission, and we did have quite a discussion on it today, and you know, your situation is not falling on deaf ears. I mean, it's a tough situation because parking downtown is a limited resource. It's valuable, so they've got to be fair to everybody in the city, but they want it to make common sense. But as you can imagine, it's tough to, you know, how do you know if somebody's been there just part of 2 hours, this or that? But what I am happy to report is that over the last several months, you know, they've been engaging a whole new system, and frankly, with new technology that is going to do a much better job of being able to kind of track on who's there, how long they've been there, and certainly I encourage them to, you know, and with their own city administrator, to let's take a look at this. Is this something that really we need to take a look at and make a change? And now if we have an aid with technology to make it work fair, that's certainly what we want to do. So I would stay tuned. So, okay.
Yeah. You know, and this is just an incident of public comment, of you bringing that to our attention where we can do a better job. So this is a great example of how public comment works for everybody. So thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Anyone else? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Lori Jager, and thanks for covering my first minute and a half. So my husband Dave got a ticket. He'd been parked for 20 minutes. This was on February 26th, so just recently. He was parked in the morning for 20 minutes. He left for 6 hours. He came back, parked for an hour and a half, and had a ticket. And he asked the gentleman who drove the GPS car, he said, well, it's the city ordinance. You're parked in the same spot within 300 feet. So I looked at the city ordinance, 10.24.020. I have copies if you want them. And Subsection B says no owner or property of any vehicle shall allow or cause such vehicle to be continuously parked for a period of more than 2 hours on any day between 9 and 6. Sorry. So going on to 10.24.030, A says the parking limit has to expire. The space has to expire within 2 hours, or you have to move it 300 feet. And then section B says places in town that don't have the 2 hour, they've got that 24-hour 1 block rule. So since he didn't occupy either space for a time for it to be expired, subsection A would not apply. And subsection B wouldn't apply because he wasn't there continuously. So I think that they've been combined, the two subsections, and whether part of that is Diamond Parking understanding and interpreting and enforcing the ordinance, or maybe it's being combined for purposes of increasing revenues. Not saying anything. So anyway, I think that the city either needs to rewrite the ordinance, they need to explain the ordinance to Diamond Parking and their enforcer, and they need to post it to make it public, because everybody knows how hard it is downtown. I've got people that come downtown that say they haven't been there in years. People come into our store and say, where's Del Sol? He moved out 4 years ago. So there's been letters to the editor, left a bad taste in tourist mouths. You know, every part of Coeur d'Alene comes downtown. Our city core is so important, and I think we need to make it more inviting and get people back.
Thank you. That 2-hour parking enforcement, it's tough to do, and I think you understand as a downtown business owner, the reason for it is to keep traffic moving through there. If we didn't have the 2-hour ordinance, you would basically have employees parking on the street all day long, taking up spots for the customers. But I do know that there are challenges to that. We have instituted the first ticket anyone gets is just a warning ticket, not a dollar amount ticket, just to get them to maybe understand that the 2-hour parking rule. So it's not a perfect system. Sounds like you got caught up in something that is basically a glitch in the parking system, but we're working on that, and I know that the Downtown Association and Troy and Diamond are working on to get a better program. Never going to be perfect. It's always going to be.
Speaking to Councilman English, it actually gives you a date and time, and we'll tell you how long they're there. So he was gone 6 hours. That guy went around more than once in 6 hours and would have been able to tell that he was no longer there. So I think it's really them understanding the ordinance and how to control it with their GPS system.
Well, and just to add, of course, I don't know if he could remember every car that he drove by, all of that, but the beauty of this is it's going to have the technology to record the license plate, and the computer will be able to remember.
Oh, yeah, we got a real nice picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's that? Did you receive a warning ticket, initial
No,
warning?
he's received a ticket.
A previous ticket.
And of course, we're appealing it because it does not match up to the ordinance that was previously cited.
But you did receive that warning ticket initially?
I believe, yes.
The no-charge ticket.
I believe he did, and he thought, oh, wow, how nice. Look, I got a warning ticket.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, it's a work in progress.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to give public comment tonight? If not, we will move on to announcements. Any member of the council have an announcement tonight?
I just have a quick one. Two quick things. One is last week I was honored to represent the city of Coeur d'Alene on a panel at University of Idaho, which was put on by their associated student body and a nonprofit called She Should Run, and it was encouraging women to get involved in public office. I will tell you that the young men and women in the room were enlightened and encouraged, and it really warmed my heart to say there's a lot of folks interested in getting involved, and I felt a little more confident in the future. So that was one thing. And the other is I'd like to welcome Troop 202, who's here in the audience today, Boy Scout Troop, and they're working on projects for Eagle Scout badges, 2 different things. So welcome and thank you for being here.
Yes. Anyone else? Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to update council, last week I was at the county and we had another meeting on the transit center. So they're moving closer to building a transit center with a parking lot and all kinds of fun stuff. I did pass along council's questions, which is we definitely wanted a lobby in the building for people to wait. And we wanted to make sure that, or wanted to find out what the cost would be versus having a lobby in the building and having the lobby the way I presented it to you last time. And I hope you'll be satisfied with the results. I was going to present it here, but Jody Beasy, who runs the transit office, would like to give a presentation at some future council meeting. She's out of town now, so she couldn't do it tonight. But at some point in time in the future, you can look forward to that where you can ask her questions. And I hope you guys are pleased.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have anything? Ron?
Yeah, this morning in the paper, there was a article in there about Highway 95 and Bosanko. Now, I'd like to know, was the city ever advised about they're gonna change that or not? And if we were advised, you know, I didn't know anything about it until it was in the paper today. And I think that, you know, we should have, as the mayor and the council, should have some input on that.
Troy could probably speak to some of that. I know there's been a lot of work with our city engineering department and our streets department in regards to that. Maybe, Troy, you could enlighten us a little bit on that.
Yes, the city has been a party to what ITD is proposing. That plan would include no intersections within at least a half mile of each other. And so they were looking at those intersections with the impacts. Bosanko quickly comes up on the radar when you think about its location in comparison to the other major intersections that were not as viable to redo. And so, yes, we have been told about the way in which that traffic should flow, where the lights would go, and it's trickling down now to those impacted parties.
Well, is there any way that the city could say put a stop to it, or have say public hearing or discussions? Because you know, I think that there's a lot of businesses and I think a lot of people are upset about it.
We've dealt with Idaho Transportation Department for quite a while, and we can have input. We have had input. I don't know that we always get a result from our inputs.
Sometimes I don't think they pay much attention to us. I mean, we can have input, but they you know, they don't listen. Because I think they think that they're God Almighty.
You've been at this quite a bit longer than I have, sir, and I have no comment to that comment.
Troy, may we ask Chris Bosley to come to our next council meeting and kind of give us an update on where that's at, where the decision-making process is, just so we're kind of all up to speed.
I could do that for you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
so
you can do it right now.
Yeah, I'm the liaison to CAMPO. So CAMPO is County Master Planning Organization, or Kootenai County. The federal government requires that every county have one of these things where we discuss transportation. And the 95 corridor north of I-90 has been on the radar for a while. It's part of what's called the Fast Lane Grant. And the goal is to move traffic, you know, people, goods, services, because it's the major route in Idaho to Canada, as efficiently as possible. And one of the ways they've decided to accomplish that goal is to, like the mayor said, or like Troy said, is to have a stop signal every half mile. And Bosanko is too close to Kathleen. And likewise, Hanley and Canfield are too close. So the council was made aware of this when we talked about the redo of North Government Way, and that they're going to be putting in a signal at Wilbur and taking out the signal, I believe is at Canfield that they're taking the signal out of, I think it is. So we were, at the time, it was brought up by Administrator Hammond that Bosanko was also going to go. And they showed us a map that showed the signals being taken out and one signal was going to be added. So that was quite some time ago. And so our focus was on government, obviously, that's our project, but it also parallels to this fast lane project. There was a public hearing, I think, last week, notice in the paper. So the ITD has gone through all the steps that they normally go through when they do a big project like this. I don't know the exact date of when they're going to be fixing all of this, but Bosanko's been scheduled to go. In fact, I had a discussion today with someone about Bosanko, and I don't even know why it was put in or whether we put it in or ITD put it in, but it was fairly recent. I mean, it's been within the last 20 years that they added that signal, and now they're taking it out, which is, it's government. So, but I don't think there's really anything at this point that people could do to reverse that. I think it's pretty much like, you know, ITD, they're doing what they want to do, and this is their goal with the fast lane grant. I can see if there's anything we can do to get it out of there, but remember, their goal is to move traffic through that corridor as efficiently as possible, and they've decided that the way to do that is to cut out some signals and to eliminate cross traffic. So like at Haycraft, down there more toward Appleway, you know, you can't cross the street there. They're going to put in a barrier, and you can make a right turn, that's it.
So Dan, at this point, it's with ITD. So if anyone has any concerns, it has to be with ITD.
Yeah, and they're going to tell you that the big hearing was last week, and like you read in the paper, there were a lot of people who showed up and read the paper, and that's always a good thing, to show up and let people know what you think. So we'll see what happens after that, if they change their mind. And you know, but between the two intersections, between Bosanko and Kathleen is the heavy hitter there, so they're not going to take that one out.
I agree with you that whatever ITD wants to do, they'll do it. I mean, you know, with, say, our consent or not, or anybody else's consent. They, you know, I've seen over the years that whatever they want to do, they'll do.
Any other council comment? What?
Well, I have a happy story to follow that. Bill, could I get you to come up here? Bill? Oh, I thought you wanted to see the game, so I have a real quick. I was reading the minutes from Parks and Rec, and you gave a plaque to a gentleman, and his name was?
Mike, and I forget his last name. I apologize. And
but
Mike
we're not giving it to him here.
No. So Mike's kind of a private guy.
Right.
And he has been working with Debbie Frisbee. And so he goes out and finds a grave for folks and has taken pictures and helped us in our database with her. And so we asked him if he'd like to come. We'd like to give him an award, and he said no thank you. So we went ahead and gave him an award anyway, and we mailed it to him, but we wanted to get his recognition read at our Park and Rec Commission meeting.
So my story about this guy. So when I lost my mom and dad, all of a sudden you start thinking about your ancestry, who you are, your great-grandpa you never knew, all those stories. So I started doing Ancestry. Part of Ancestry is findagrave.com. Sounds stupid and crazy, but it really works. What happens is when you have ancestors that are 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 generations back, you don't get a picture of them. What you ask for is a picture of the gravestone. And that's what this fellow did in our big ancient cemetery.
Correct.
Forest cemetery.
Both of them, actually, yes.
So what happens is you put out a little thing saying, hey, could you, somebody's in Maine, and you ask somebody to take a picture of your great-grandmother's thing, and they send it to you. It's all done through email, through findagrave.com. So a bunch of people did that for me, back east, all over the country where my ancestors were. And so you put your name up there going, oh, I live close to Forest Cemetery in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So you become, they'll call you and say, hey, would you go take a picture? So you never think about it, and all of a sudden you get that email, and they give you the name. And I'm all excited. I get to give back. I come down to City Hall, go to your guys. Here's this map of a cemetery. Is the craziest thing you'll ever see. But they will help you find this person. So I'm all excited. I'm going to the graveyard, and you know, you go to a graveyard and you're pretty much the only person there. It's not like there's
Living
crowds.
person, yeah.
You don't stand in line or anything, you know. So I drive in and I'm thinking it's over in this area, in the old part of the area, and there's a gentleman walking around out there in that same area I'm going to, and I'm going, this is weird. The whole graveyard's empty, and there's a guy looking around and I don't know who it is. And I think, well, I'll just sit in my car and, you know, you do quiet things in graveyards. You spend some time with your mom or your dad or whatever. So he wanders off. So I kind of wander into that area with my map trying to find these people. There's a couple, a husband and a wife. And I'm not having any luck, and I'm going around in circles, and all of a sudden everything starts turning. All the graves that you think are all in a line, they're in curves and stuff. And I'm just, my first time, so I'm a little weary thinking I'm turned around or something. Pretty soon, this guy is coming across the graveyard with one of your guys, a grave guy. He's got the book under his arm, he's got a long stick. And they're walking towards me, and I'm starting to kind of go, oh, am I in trouble, you know? So the guy walks up to me, introduces himself, and he says, what are you doing in my graveyard? Mike does, right? I swear. And all of a sudden, he told me he's a find the grave guy, and this is his graveyard. And it was just fascinating to watch him try and find these people. We never did find them because they didn't have headstones, and sometimes people don't have headstones. And it's kind of creepy and kind of weird, and you're trying to understand why wouldn't they have a headstone. But according to your guys, there's these placards.
The bricks.
And if they're old, they're in a foot of dirt or the grass has grown over them. So he's got this long pole and he's poking, trying to hit the thing, right?
I was wondering what the stick was for.
I thought it was the Grim
I
Reaper.
don't think I was going to leave that
Beat
stick
up
out.
Woody with the stick.
So the point is that I met the guy who probably did most of the photography, and Debbie did that. And so Find a Grave, when you go there and look at Forest Cemetery, they got it covered. The curvature, I found out from back in the day, when they came to bury somebody, it was a horse and a wagon. And horses needed to be able to turn. So all the graves are in these beautiful curves.
Yeah.
So that the horse and wagon
can get through there. That they were platted in that way. So that old section, you can see those
you know
radiuses
where
all
you
throughout
are by
there.
how old it is. So I just wanted to give you an attaboy and your graveyard guys an attaboy that
And
it's
Nick and
a
Robert do a great job out there.
fascinating thing. And there's a whole bunch of people that are lost, and that could be a Boy Scout project going out there and finding the lost people, because it means a lot eventually.
With permission, of course.
Does that make sense? Yeah. And anything you might add to that, but it was a good story when he got his award and wouldn't take it, but
Yeah, so he's just a real private guy, but we thought it was really important to recognize him because he's really helped us and a lot of the public and other people don't live in our community. So we're really thankful for him.
it's good for the heart, too.
Yeah.
I appreciate him, and I thank him.
Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Woody. Anyone else have anything tonight?
Can't top that, no.
I have some appointments. I would like to appoint Tessa Gillot, Kim Golden, and Tim Taylor to the Pedestrian Bicycle Advisory Committee.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
There's no more business.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.